Hello. Hello. How's it going? Good morning. Hope you all are thriving, not just surviving. So, words. I have been working a lot this week, and I have a really busy weekend coming up. So I haven't been able to put a lot of energy and a lot of effort into a lot of my content recently. So today we are going to be talking and doing a repeat of yesterday and some of what we've been kind of talking about recently. But, sorry, that was a coffee burp. But I think on Monday, or maybe soon, the next few broadcasts I'm going to be doing are going to be about farmers, because right now there's a lot of craziness that's happening within the farming industry. And I want to bring y'all's attention to that. I'm trying to shift my content to being less reactionary towards the craziness of what our dictator neck pussy Kinkles McTaco Tits is doing, and more about just being proactive and like covering certain things and like trying to explain it all, you know, instead of being reactionary, be more proactive and actually provide more context and information there. So today we are going to be doing a repeat of the fact that undocumented people pay a lot in taxes, and yet what do we do as Americans? I say we, broadly speaking, as Americans, demonize them, marginalize them, brutalize them. Because, you know, Jesus would absolutely do that. But going forward, I am going to be talking a lot more about farming, and specifically soybeans and cattle farming. Because for those people who do not know, as a quick little thing, one of our biggest agricultural exports for the United States is soybeans. Soybeans is one of the biggest exports. It accounts for about 14% of all exports for our crops. So that's big. It's a huge industry, particularly for rural states, whether that's like, you know, that's Oklahoma or Kansas or Iowa, Nebraska. These are really, really big, you know, states that do a lot of farming. And so you particularly have, or like Missouri and stuff like that, a lot of these more red states are really struggling right now because a lot of soybean farmers are not able to actually get their product to market. It's not that they don't have the capacity to do so, it's just the market isn't there because of our trade war that we have going on right now. The soybeans are so expensive here in America, although it's particularly just, it's completely unnecessary in my view, and it's a man-made crisis by Donald Trump. And instead of actually doing something substantively to fix the problem, he's browbeating farmers for not being good enough, which is just crazy to me. So all that being said, I am going to be talking more about that on Monday. I was going to try to talk about it today, but in order for me to do a thorough deep dive, it would have been a lot of time for me to get everything organized, taken together, and then I wouldn't have time to do a live stream. So we are just going to be doing a repeat of what we've been talking about for the past, you know, few days. But I want to really just emphasize specifically this. And I see, sounds like they're getting what they voted for. Yeah, Latin Zane, you're very spot on with that. They are getting what they voted for. I will say, as a Southern person, and I do want to share this. This has kind of been something on my mind recently. There are a lot of people whose values, supposed values, don't align with their actions. Part of that is because of their ignorance or their hatred, or they are just fucking stupid. Other times it's because they've never gotten the feedback of hypocrisy. They've never been open to the idea of, oh my gosh, that actually goes against it. You know, there's so many people that whenever you receive a piece of criticism, you immediately double down and just reject it. And so I think these farmers truly didn't realize the scope of what they actually voted for. But, you know, when you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. Doesn't mean that I don't want them to suffer in that sense. I don't want anyone to suffer. But, you know, if you get what you voted for, sorry, there's only so much that I can do to stop you. And so I think it's important that we leave room for growth, but then also tough love, you know? I think it's a fine line, and it depends on the person. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about that as well. But I do want to at least repeat, and I want you all to drill this message into people in your own communities. And right now, I get very, very upset when I see human rights abuses. Right now, I'm low-key thinking of, I don't think it's hyperbolic of me to say that right now in America, we're experiencing a genocide amongst immigrants. I don't think that's hyperbolic at all, because there are people that are being kidnapped by unmarked vehicles with people that have coverings over their faces, being deported to concentration camps and God knows where. And to me, I know personally not many, but I know a good chunk of people who are undocumented in this country in my own personal life. And it's just, it hurts my soul to think that something like that could happen to them. You know, if you're being deported, if you're being like deported into a concentration camp, like an alligator Alcatraz, that's why I'm calling it a genocide. I don't think it's hyperbolic for me to call it that. It's one thing to have stricter immigration enforcement. I get that. But to then be bragging about putting people into a concentration camps, or even our president bragging about those people being eaten by alligators, yeah, that's genocide. It's one thing to have a stronger enforcement mechanism, but it's another thing to then just be completely brutal with all of that. And I don't think that there's any excuse for brutality whatsoever. Sorry, I don't. So I appreciate every single one of you. Let me get to specifically this here. So I grew up in a very Christian home. I grew up in a very Christian Southern evangelical home. And one of the reasons why I'm not sure where I am at with my Christian sort of journey is because a lot of these Southern Republican evangelical beliefs do not align with what the Bible actually talks about. The Bible talks about loving your neighbor, seeking to be last, not first, you know? And so when I see these people who align with MAGA, then also claim to be Christian, it really just makes me do a double take. Because look at this. So you would see, this is obviously not a real scene, but imagine a mother bringing their kid to be healed to Jesus. And then Jesus says, you see, I'd love to heal her, but I'm unsure of her citizenship status. In the Bible, it talks about loving your neighbor. It talks about not fearing the resident alien. It talks about loving foreigners. There's so many Bible verses in there. So when I see these MAGA evangelicals being super fostering hypocrisy based on not following their religion, I just have to point it out. And I know today's live is a little bit all over the place, though I do want to at least get back to this. For those people who do not know, and I'm going to give you all a goal this week. I want you all to at least tell one person. I want you all to share with them, say like, you know, there are people in this country that are undocumented, yes. Should they be undocumented? No. Is it hard for them to become citizens because our system is so backlogged? Yes. But do you know how much they actually contribute to the economy? Not just within their labor or being here or taking the jobs that many, you know, traditionally born white Americans don't usually take, but they also pay a lot of taxes into the system and then don't really get much out of it. And I think it's something that we, you know, this whole idea from the right wing that, oh, undocumented immigrants are like, you know, they're mooching off of America in some sense. Actually, we're low-key kind of mooching off of them because they pay a lot in taxes into the system and then they don't get anything in return because they don't qualify for programs for assistance, whether that's Social Security or Medicare or traditional Medicaid or unemployment. They get some limited provisions for SNAP or WIC, which I think is just humane to do. Because regardless of people's citizenship status, children deserve to be able to eat. If you think that I'm some crazy communist Marxist socialist because I don't want children to go hungry, then I guess guilty as charged. But I want you all to, my task for you all is, if you can, share with at least one person in your life. It doesn't have to be the biggest conversation. It can also just be a comment. Just share with them, be like, did you know that undocumented immigrants pay taxes? And then because of their status, they can't access those programs? Because I think it's important we point this out. So the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, I've been talking about this for days. This is going to be the last day I talk about it, for now at least, has done this comprehensive analysis that specifically talked about how much undocumented immigrants actually pay in taxes. So you can see here in 2022, they don't have 2024 data just yet, but in 2024 data, which isn't out, I'm expecting it to be so much higher. 2022, we had about $100 billion paid in taxes by undocumented people. That's a lot of money. That goes to things like the federal social insurance taxes or federal income tax or other federal taxes, but then there's also state and local tax here. So that's a lot of money that is paid by those people. And of course, for federal social insurance taxes, this goes to things like Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, which they can't access because of their status. So more than a third of taxpayer dollars paid by undocumented immigrants goes towards payroll taxes, like tax withholding, all that stuff, that go to paying for these kinds of programs. Imagine if you are forced to pay into a system and then never are able to receive stuff out of it. Imagine there's a requirement that you pay for a streaming service, but you're never given the opportunity or even the capacity to use that streaming service. Take right now $100 from your bank account and just burn it. That's what it's like for undocumented people, because part of their wages are taken away from them to pay for programs that they're never able to access. That's just important to just view it like that. And so they pay all of this money into the system, and then you can never access it. And that's just because of their status as being undocumented. And for those people who are like, well, why don't they just become citizens? Do you know how hard it is to become a citizen here? Do you know what the process is like? Do you know how long of a process it actually is? It can take up to 10 years just to get a hearing in front of an immigration judge. Just to get a hearing. 10 years. Many people in the live stream are parents, okay? Let's say that you were living in Mexico or a South American country, Latin American country. Your kids are being recruited for cartels. Economic opportunity is few and far between. Maybe your specific place was devastated by a natural disaster. These are things that make you want to move to a different country. So you hear about this place called America. You see the beautiful pictures of how America is a place of immigrants that, is rife with opportunity. So you decide to try and move there. You're desperate to get out of your current predicament, so you decide to go to this golden place, America. Now, it doesn't make it right that you're undocumented. I know people in my own personal life that are undocumented. They hate the fact they're undocumented. It terrifies them. No undocumented person wants to be undocumented. Let me say that again for any MAGA people that might be screaming their heads off in here. No undocumented person, no illegal immigrant likes the fact that they are not American citizens. They hate it. They're like, I wish I was one. It's not like a thing where they get off on like, oh yeah, I'm living in this country while not being a citizen. That's not a thing. Because for those people, it's actually a huge disadvantage. They can't access certain programs. They don't have the citizenship status to do it. They don't have the social security number. They don't have the proper IDs in order to qualify for programs that they pay into themselves. But going back to my example here, if you're a parent, you would do anything to protect your kids, to, foster economic opportunity, provide for them. There are a lot of people in countries south of us, Latin America and South America, that are desperate to flee from lack of economic opportunity, environmental degradation, their kids are being recruited for cartels, etc. So they go to this place called America. And what do we do in return? We demonize them. We brutalize them. We kidnap them from unmarked vehicles with cowards covering their faces. We are a country that is made up of immigrants. We are all foreigners on this land because we stole it from the Native Americans. But further here, it's like these people are justifying breaking the law in order to protect their kids. Have you ever justified maybe bending a law in order to protect your kids? Let's say, and I've used this example several times, and if it hits home with you, great. If it doesn't, it's okay. Let's say that there is a big highway. You're on one side, your loved one, an elderly grandmother, let's say, is on the other side. And in each direction, it's a mile to the nearest crosswalk. In each direction. And you wave at your grandmother, she waves back, and then she suffers an episode. She starts crouching over, coughing, maybe starting to go unconscious, and you start to worry. Now, that's a big highway that's in between, and the nearest crosswalks are a mile in each direction. Are you going to go all the way down to run a mile just to cross the crosswalk and go all the way back? Or are you going to justify jaywalking across the highway in order to get to her, to make sure she's okay, to dial 911, to aid her in that sense? Technically, that's breaking the law in order to do something to care for your loved one. That's the kind of situations that people that are undocumented are facing. Lack of economic opportunity to provide for their families. Environmental degradation wiping out regions. Also, you have kids being recruited for cartels and you want to get them away from those bad influences. So there are a lot of people who are undocumented that will then say, well, I don't like that we have to, be undocumented in order to come to this country for a chance at better life, but we're going to do it. It doesn't make that choice okay, but it puts it in context. They don't like the fact they are undocumented. They want to go through the proper procedures in order to then get a hearing in front of a judge, but it can take up to 10 years. The reason I say all of this is because I hope that you justify jaywalking across that highway to care for your loved one. But see, the reason why so many people on the far right, you can't acknowledge this, is because they're cowards deep down. They don't have the capacity for empathy. They've never been given the permission to be empathetic towards other people. It's all about me, 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 me. I mean, for heaven's sake, their leader is Donald Trump, the guy who truly only cares about himself. He only cares about himself, his big grand ballroom. You ask farmers if they think that Trump cares about them right now, it's completely different. So the reason I say all of this is because that's the kind of living that a lot of people who are undocumented living in this country face. And as an American, whenever I see injustice towards a group, even if I'm not involved in it, I'm going to say something. Not because I'm some amazing person, but because right is right, wrong is wrong. When I see brutality towards a certain group, I'm going to say something. I guess that makes me a crazy, radical, Marxist, socialist, communist, but I don't care. And it doesn't, by the way. That's just their words for me. So these undocumented people, after going through all that, they pay a lot in taxes, but then they don't receive benefits from it. So you see here, federal income tax, federal social insurance taxes, these are all things that they pay into, but they can't access those programs because they are undocumented. So for those people who are like, okay, wait, undocumented immigrants don't receive Medicare? No. Undocumented people are not eligible for Medicare. They're not eligible to receive unemployment. They're not eligible to receive Social Security. They only get limited amounts of SNAP benefits, or WIC, which is the Women, Infants, and Children program with SNAP. They do get some limited provisions in that way, But that's also just decent in my view because they're people. Regardless of their citizenship status or not, people are people. And it's the job of a government to provide for those people. You need to give them the ability to thrive, the ability to succeed, the ability to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And also, I just want to point out another thing. If we were to legalize all the undocumented people that are living within this country, we could also, not only would that all be helpful, we would actually tax them more. So for instance, you can see Alabama here. The current contributions by undocumented people is $146 million. If you legalized all the undocumented people living in Alabama, the tax contributions would then be $180 million. So that you're basically leaving money on the table because of prejudice. You're leaving money on the table because of prejudice. Now, there have been attempts to reform our immigration system to make it better, 100%. And you're like, okay, Scott, what is the big thing that needs to change? What's the big thing that needs to change in order for us to fix the immigration system? And it's actually one very simple thing. Hire more immigration judges, administrative staff, in order to take on more cases, to vet people quicker, to process people quicker, to get them to become citizens, take their test, etc. Right now, our system is so backlogged because there's so many people that want to come to this country to become citizens. We don't have the judicial staff in order to make that possible. People will put, oh, okay, I'm going to have my hearing in 7 years. My judicial hearing in 7 years. That's crazy. So the one thing that needs to be fixed, and I hope that regardless of political affiliation, people can come to the understanding, what we need to do is beef up our immigration court system so that we have more judges, so that we have more staff to take on those cases to see, okay, are you a cool person to let into the country or not? That way we have more of the capacity to handle the situation. Right now, them trying to just build a wall, like, you don't think that people are, you think that's going to, like, really stop? There are a lot of people. Also, in this country, we are a country made up of immigrants. So why are we trying to stop people from moving into this country? Why? And then, you know, I don't like to necessarily make it this way, but facts are facts. If the majority of people that were trying to move to this country, if the majority of them are white, I guarantee we wouldn't have as much demonization towards undocumented people. But no, a lot of them are not white. So that leads to prejudice being activated. So anyway, this is the last day that I'm going to talk about it, but I do want to clarify one more thing before I end the live stream, and then I have to get to work. There is such a thing called EMTALA, Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act. EMTALA is a program that says that if you're an undocumented person, you can go to a hospital in cases of severe illness or severe injury. You will have part of the bill compensated to care for that, but the thing is, it only applies for cases of severe illness and severe injury. So it doesn't apply for, like, your normal doctor's appointment. It doesn't apply for your normal medical care. That was a law signed in place by Ronald Reagan. One of the things that he actually did that I agreed with. Because again, regardless of your citizenship status, to me, it's just morally right to allow people who are undocumented to go to a hospital. To go to a hospital and receive treatment. Part of it to be compensated. I think that's generally a good thing. Because I view medical care as a human right. I think that regardless of your identity, your citizenship, everyone should be able to go to a hospital if they're not feeling well. Have access to it. I don't understand why these MAGA evangelicals think that that's somehow blasphemous when Jesus Christ himself would be absolutely dumbfounded seeing these people's reactions to undocumented people today. But they're a living embodiment of hypocrisy, so what do you expect? So there is a small program that is put in place called Emergency Medicaid. Emergency Medicaid, also known as EMTALA, is a program that allows undocumented people to go to the emergency room. So it's known as Emergency Medicaid. Hold on. Where's the specific thing here? Where is the... Yes, here it is. And for those people who are like, well, how much does this cost? It's only $3.8 billion, which only represents 0.4% of all overall Medicaid spending. So if you're one of these people that's screaming out your keister being like, oh my God, it's so expensive. Actually, when you think about it, that's really just a drop in the bucket. It's less than 1%. So if you're going to get angry at money, then my question is, why are you not even more angry at the $20 billion bailout that Trump is considering doing to Argentina? Where is it? Hold on. Where is it? Hold on just a second. There it is. Also, Trump is considering trying to buy beef from Argentina, which to me, if you have all this American beef, isn't it America first in order to like buy the existing beef there? The existing beef in this country? So that's a whole nother thing that I'm going to be diving into, because farmers are really pissed at Trump right now. And so I'm going to be diving into that on Monday. But that all being said, I just wanted to share that one more time. I didn't have enough time to really cover. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into farmers, soybeans, cattle in particular on Monday. I really wanted to do it today, but I didn't have enough time to compile everything and then go live because I have to be at work in about 10 minutes. So I need to go. I appreciate every single one of you. I cannot do this live without my moderators being here in the chat. I know that I was kind of a broken record when it came to the topic today. So I just wanted to, it's so much for keeping beef industry in this country. Isn't that what, Dump preached? Yeah, 100%. And that's something I want to talk about a lot more coming up on Monday, is right now, American soybeans are one of our biggest crop exports. And it's completely like, China has stopped buying soybeans from us, and it's taken a huge toll on the agricultural sector. And right now, the best place for farmers in order to maintain their livelihoods has been through cattle. Well, if Donald Trump wants to buy a lot more Argentinian beef, then that kind of cripples the cattle ranchers. And so a lot of people who are farmers are like, yeah, this whole thing with the tariffs is a man-made crisis. Look, at least liberals and progressives and Democrats were like, look, we don't have to be friends, but these tariffs are going to hurt the country. They're going to hurt you. And you're like, shut up, I don't care. Fuck trans people. See what that bigotry gets you? Anyway, so we're going to be talking a lot about that on Monday. But I need to get to work. Shout out to my amazing moderators. Y'all are amazing. I cannot do any of this without them. Kate, Akicha, Elisa, y'all are incredible. Ellie, Cherie, Kate, Cantisa, Joanna Tech, Jenny. I seriously love all of you so much, and I cannot do this live without you all. So I need to get to work. I appreciate all of you. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye!